Hey everyone, this is Daniel from Cast 98, and this is part 3 of our video series showing you how to make a rehearsal schedule using spreadsheets. Specifically, I'm using Google Sheets. If you're using Excel, it's the same thing, it's just as powerful, but the formulas are probably a little different and the controls are a little different, but they can both do the same thing really well. This is a 3-part series. In the first part, we explored how to set up your audition form, because that's kind of the beginning of it all. That's how you collect your data, specifically your conflict data from your auditionees and your cast members. In part 2, we saw how to sort and organize those conflicts into a usable format that's right there in your spreadsheet, easy to grab. And in this part, we will actually dive into scheduling and putting together your rehearsal schedule. So I'm not going to put 100 rehearsals on the schedule today, but I will probably put about a dozen or 20 or so on the schedule so that you can see how it works. And as we do that, we'll also talk through some of the challenges that we're facing making this schedule. So let's dive in, shall we? Let me tab over to our spreadsheet. This is a new tab that I've created called Schedule. But before we look at that, let me click back. We'll take this in reverse order from what we've done. This is what we covered in part 2. This is setting up the conflicts that we got from our Google form audition form. So they submitted the Google form audition form. They all came into one sheet. Here, I'll go ahead and click there. I said reverse order, but we won't do that. So this first sheet is the data. This is just the raw data that comes in from the audition form from Google Sheets or from a Google form. If you used SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics or FormStack or any kind of questionnaire software, you can probably export that data into a CSV format and then import that into Google Sheets, and this is what you would have. So it would kind of catch you up. I have hidden a lot of columns here, all of the contact information, all of the past experience information, hidden all that just because we're zeroing in on conflicts right now. So I hid all those columns so we can just see the data that we want to work with, but we don't really use this data at all because also in part 1 at the tail end, we took all that contact information and we just really quick created a contact sheet that our performers can use, and you can drill this down and make it just the leadership team if you want to, but it's really easy to extract that contact information from your audition form. And then in part 2, we covered the sorting and organizing of conflicts. And so what you see here is a list of the dates that we had available on our audition form. And if you don't know why we selected these dates, you can go back to part 1. But we have October, the production period that we're pretending to have is October 1 through December 25th. But here in the conflicts, I only have October 1 through October 30, or 31. There's 31 days in October. So I have all of October. And then what we have is little indicators counting how many conflicts were submitted for each of these days. So again, you can go back and watch part 2 if you want to find out how to use formulas to make that really easy. We also color coded it so that we could easily see days that are conflict free or that have fewer conflicts than some other days. And then we have our auditionee data. So these are actual, well, they're all fake, but they are actual comments left by our auditionees on their audition form regarding their conflicts. So we gave them 3 choices for each day. They could either select that they have an all-day conflict, they could do nothing with that day, indicating that they have no conflict, or they could select other and leave a note about some kind of partial day conflict. So that's what we have in this area. Now, I will say, if you watched part 2, I have since part 2, I've added a lot more auditionees, and I have added more days to our calendar. So in the audition form in part 1, I only set up 10 days, and I only submitted that form 8 times. I doubled that. I have 16 auditionees now. You see them across the top. I renamed some of them as well so that we could just have some fun with who we're casting in our show or setting up rehearsals for. And then, as I said earlier, I went all the way down to October 31st so that we had 31 full days of conflicts to work with. So this looks a little bit different than where we left off last time. The one other thing that might look a little different is I have a new row at the top just to show something you can do. If you right-click on the row number on the left side in Google Sheets, you can insert a new row at the very top, which I have done, and I made that a characters row. So not only do we have our actor names listed now that we extracted from the audition form, but we also have their character names now, which is kind of weird because we have Harry Potter here and then we have Gaston here. So this is not Harry Potter. This is, I guess, Beauty and the Beast or something. It's like a Disney mashup, Little Beauty and the Beast, Little Cinderella. But it doesn't matter. We're really not going to look at characters in this video. So that hopefully catches you up, explains everything you're seeing here if you haven't seen those other parts to our video. And this is our new tab that we're going to be working on today. I did go ahead and create this tab. I have not formatted it yet, but I'm going to do that right now because I want this to match everything else that we have and to be easy for our cast members to just a little more pleasant for them to look at when they come in. So I have 5 columns set up here. Date, obviously, you know what the date is, you know what the time is. It's the start time for a rehearsal. Then we have the title of the rehearsal, any notes, like if they need to bring something or if they need to sign a waiver or have a parent come and drop them off or this and that. And then we have our list of attendees who actually needs to come to this rehearsal. So really basic, really simple. I've seen a lot more columns in past rehearsal schedules that I've worked with. So you can add as many columns as you want. Whatever information you need, you can throw it in there. So let's format this a little bit. You see I've already made the date and the time columns a little bit smaller, but I also, just to match my other tabs, which I also didn't point that out, but they are also now much prettier than they were in those videos. So I did some basic formatting. So I changed the font to Montserrat. I like Montserrat. That's what we use on cast98.com. And I make the rows just a smidge bigger because we want to create some extra space there. And then I vertical align everything to the middle. And for this tab, I'm going to turn text wrapping on. And so I'm going to have all the text wrap, and that's because if when we get into putting a lot of auditioning names and things into our schedule here, I want to make sure all those names are visible at all times without chopping anything off. So without further ado, let's dive in. The first thing I'm going to do, this is going to be a little bit of a best practices that I have found in rehearsal scheduling. And so I'm going to follow some of those best practices that I have for myself. You might do things a little bit differently, but for me, I know if I click back over to conflicts, we're going to pretend that that October 30th, Friday, October 30th is our opening night. So we're going to pretend that's opening night, which of course means, here, I'll go ahead and put that on the schedules just as a frame of reference. We're going to format this as just saying 10:30. I'm not going to worry about saying that that's Friday. And then the time is going to be, we'll use this as 7:30 because that's going to be showtime, 7:30 p.m. Okay, so let me just extend this out a little bit, extend that out a little bit so we have nice little bit of space between everything. And we're going to say this is opening night, call time, 6 o'clock p.m. All right, so now I have a little more text here. I can blow these out a little bit, and I know I'm going to need more space for our attendees, so let me extend that out. Okay, so so this is kind of the format we're going to follow. I'm going to bold this top column, and I'm going to show you a cool thing. If you select the top left cell here, that selects everything in your table. I'm going to go to Format and down to Alternating Colors. We've not covered this before, but this is how I made those other tabs look really cool. And now you can choose, in Google Sheets, you can choose a style. I'm going to choose this brown because I haven't used it yet. Kind of like it, even though it's brown, khaki. And I'm going to click Done. And what that did is it just made everything, it gives us this alternating color for our rows, which helps people look horizontally across a lot of information. So after you put 100 rehearsals on your schedule, it becomes very easy for them to see row by row what's different and what's not, where one row stops and where the next row begins, just by having a little subtle color differentiation. So that just makes things look nicer and easier to skim for our actors. We'll cover more about that in a future video, no worries. So that's opening night, and so if that's opening night, I know right away that 10:29 is going to be a tech rehearsal, and we're going to run that from 5 to 10 p.m. So you could put this in as like 5 o'clock p.m. since that's the start time, and we'll say final dress as our rehearsal. And for our attendees, obviously all, and we're going to have a couple more tech rehearsals, which are also going to be all. all calls. Okay, so 10:28 is also going to be a tech rehearsal. In fact, instead of doing this, let me just show you a cool little trick. If you have a couple of dates in your schedule already, and this works, if you're working on something else, then it's not a rehearsal schedule. These dates are sequential. It goes from 30 to 29. So Google Sheets is smart enough. If I grab this little square that's on the bottom corner here, you see how my cursor changes when I hover over that. So if I grab that square and drag it down a little bit, it's going to take what has started, which is decreasing our days, running in a backwards format, and it's just going to keep going with that pattern, which is a really, really handy feature. And then also we can take this 5 o'clock and I can highlight those cells below it. I'm copying that 5 o'clock with Control C, and then for these cells I'm hitting Control V to paste. Makes it really easy to do that. And then here again we'll say dress rehearsal, and we're going to call everybody. And so now I'm going to grab all of these and hold Shift and my down arrow, Control V to paste that across all of those. And so voila, now we have, this is Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday dress rehearsals. We're not going to have a dress rehearsal on Sunday, but we will have probably a 2 o'clock rehearsal that's going to be run show, or load in maybe, load into theater. That sounds pretty good. And then we might have a note there about heavy lifting, come early, bring power tools, things like that. But I won't work a lot with notes here. It's just for example's sake. So, and that might not be everyone. That might be adults only. So if you have a children's ensemble, they don't have to come. And so these are kind of, I'm not even looking at my conflicts to put these items on our schedule because I know that these are fixed. This says 2 o'clock a.m. Let me fix that. And so I don't even look at the conflicts to put these on the schedule. We know that they are going to happen. They're going to be there, and we're calling everyone to these rehearsals. So there's not a lot for me to do on the conflicts regarding these. But moving backwards from here, we probably do have some. I imagine on the Saturday before we start Tech Week, we're probably going to have a run the show rehearsal. We'll probably run the show a couple times. So for this, I will wait to put a time in, but we're going to say run show, and we will say all, or we might say, if we have 2 casts, we might say run show cast B or cast red, if we're doing red and blue. And then we have another one that's going to be run show cast blue, and this is going to be cast red and cast blue, or red cast, blue cast, however you do that. So now the reason I didn't put, I'm going to copy and paste 10:24 on both of those. The reason I didn't put the time is because I want to look at conflicts and see if there's a time that's better for some than for others. So let's go to our conflicts and see if October 24th, if anybody has conflicts noted that we can navigate around if we have some wiggle room with our time. So we have 2 people that have said that they have an all-day conflict on October 24th, and we have 10 people that have said that they have some kind of conflict, and we need to look at those notes. So if I just go across the row here, you see this person has church until 1 p.m. This person has extra Quidditch practice from 2 to 5. So they're not available from 2 to 5 p.m. on this day, and this person's not available till 1. So depending on what cast these people are in, they would need to have an evening rehearsal on that Saturday. So maybe like a 5 p.m. or a 5:30 rehearsal. And then this one says back from the beach probably around 3 p.m. So another late afternoon. Birthday party from 4 to 8. So this person is not going to be able to come. This is Severus Snape. He's not going to be able to come to a late rehearsal. And then this person after work, I'm free. That's 5:30, which is weird for a Saturday, but maybe they're in the service industry. So this is a kind of example. You just want to go through your conflicts and see what people have. One of the challenges we're facing right now at the very beginning when we look at conflicts is that I don't have a way to easily tell who is in what cast. So I could obviously do this. I could insert another row above, and I might do something like this where I just have a color that indicates red cast, and then I have another color that represents blue cast. And so I might just paint these people, so to speak. I might have Cogsworth in the blue cast, and I might just do that. But ultimately, even by color coding folks like that, I do not have the ability to see how many of these conflicts are cast specific. Or if this is, as you'll see later, if this is a dance rehearsal and I only have 6 dancers in a group, what I'm seeing here is the entire collection of people who submitted an audition form. I'm not able to break that down and look at only my dance ensemble. So that's the probably the biggest shortcoming of the biggest headache of working with a spreadsheet is that you just don't have a very easy way to filter the information that you're looking at. So on Cast 98, we solved this by providing you with the ability to add groups, kind of like what I've done up here. You could do a red cast, blue cast. You could also do a dance ensemble. You could do leads versus understudies. You could create a group for scene-specific stuff or finale-specific stuff. And you could have 40 people in those groups if you want. You could have 80 people in those groups if you want. And when you click to select those groups in Cast 98, you are only looking at the conflicts for those people. So if you have 24 people selected out of your 80-person cast, you're only seeing conflicts for those 24 people, so you can really drill down and schedule rehearsals for those larger groups. So that's all kind of a soapbox. Let me make this first row just a little smaller since it's just color coding at the top. We don't really need it to be big. But anyway, back to our October 24th rehearsal. It sounds like we have some folks, I think I made most of those folks red cast, so we'll say red cast needs to be in late afternoon and blue cast needs to be before 5 o'clock or before 4 o'clock. So let's flip back to the schedule and we'll say that the blue cast is going to be a we'll say 10 o'clock a.m. rehearsal for the blue cast, and then for the red cast it's going to be a 5 o'clock p.m. rehearsal. Now you could do this. You could add another column on the right and say end, and we could say this is going to be a 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock rehearsal, not 5 o'clock a.m. though. This is going to be a 5 to 8 o'clock p.m. rehearsal. This is going to be at a 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. rehearsal, something like that. So you could do that. Also, you could reformat all of this to say 10 to 1 p.m., things like that, if you don't want to have this column. I traditionally, as a performer, I know what it's like to not know how long a rehearsal is going to last, so I think having an end time is fantastic. But I'm also a user experience professional. I'm a web developer by trade, and so I know that trying to shorten everything like this, it becomes pretty difficult to read when you have a long list of times to look at. So you want this to be readable at a glance, and so I am a big supporter of having these times typed out in a kind of a full hour, minute, AM, PM format, and making sure that we create plenty of space between that and the date, so that it's just easy to skim down for our performers. So so there, we've got a couple of our all cast or half cast rehearsals now added to the schedule. Now let's pretend that this kind of takes care. Obviously, this is, we would run. You know what? Let's just keep going like this. On 10/23, this is going to be run Act 2. And again, we know that this is going to happen probably for both casts. And we'll wait to set up the time for that as well. But I'll go ahead and duplicate that twice right here and make this a blue cast call. Come on. Okay. So, and then the day before that, we're going to have, you guessed it, run Act 1. Cast red, and select all that and paste it and change this to blue cast. Okay, so you see the format we're following. This is kind of step 1 in my book of the best way to schedule rehearsals, and that is you put your non-negotiable rehearsals into the schedule first, because these are fixed. You see these remember these first few that I put in, the time and the date were fixed. Tech week is no joke. Everybody's called, and you want everybody to be on, like in the house, ready, going through the whole practice run, all at the same time. So you don't try to navigate conflicts. You just put it on the schedule. And then we start to break things down a little bit. Where okay, I do want running Act 2 on the 23rd, which is a Friday, but I am negotiable on the time. So we can look at the conflicts and figure out a time. So you start to compromise a little bit and navigate the conflicts there. Beyond this, what we're going to do is start to look for available dates in the conflicts for a handful of people. And so this is moving into step 2 of kind of my best practice for scheduling rehearsals, which is to schedule the large group rehearsals next after you have your big all calls on the schedule. So if we pretend that we have a big dance number, the finale number, we want to put rehearsals on the schedule for those numbers. And so let's look and see if we can find a date and time that works for just a lot of people. For the sake of this example, I'm not gonna continue to try and navigate red cast and blue cast. I'm just gonna pretend everybody that's on the list here is somebody that we are trying to schedule a rehearsal for. So let's do that. Let's pretend this is the finale number. Everybody's in it, and so let's find a date. So we have Friday, October 23rd. We're just going to work backwards here with 10 all-day conflicts. So that's not a good day. October 22nd has 8 all-day conflicts. That's not a good day. We have to go all the way back up to probably either Wednesday or Tuesday to find a day that works. And so if I look and see, I could quickly, hopefully kind of quickly look across the row. And if you know what cast members really need to be there, you probably only have a handful of those, 4 or 5 of them. You can make sure, one, you can you drag? I don't think you can drag and drop and reorder this stuff. Did that reorder? Not really, no. And that's because of the way we put information in here. I want us to be able to do that. So I'm going to show you something really quick. But first I'll finish my sentence from before. So if you have just a handful of people, you should be able to, at a glance, move across and see if those specific people have a conflict and try to navigate around that conflict. But for the most part, if you're trying to schedule a big rehearsal with 20 people, then you still just, maybe the 4 people that marked a conflict here, they might not be in that subset, and so you might be okay. Same thing with Tuesday. So I'm going to pretend that is the case here and that we can put a rehearsal on those days. So let's do that. I'm going to book a rehearsal on October 20th. This is a Tuesday for our finale number. So this is 10:20. Shoot, I already forgot. What was that? 10:22, I think. Is that the Tuesday? No, Thursday. So 10:20 as our finale. Now this is going to be, since this is really close to Tech Week, this is probably our run finale or brush up, finale. This is going to be probably the 3rd time we've worked on the finale number. And who needs to come to that? We'll say it's, geez, I don't know. We'll say it's Bell, Cogsworth, Beast, Lumiere, those types of people. Gaston has passed away at this point, spoiler alert, and so we'll have Dance Company. We'll say the dishes ensemble. So there we have our attendees listed. Obviously it would be a lot bigger than that probably, but it's just for example's sake. So we have run finale. This is on a Tuesday night, so we're going to say this starts at 6:30 p.m. and goes until 10 o'clock p.m. And I'm going to make sure come with hair and makeup on to do that. Okay, so I said this is our running our finale, and that's because we probably want to put the finale on the schedule a couple of other times. So this will be our final finale rehearsal, but if we go back to the conflicts, we can look for another date that might work better that's sooner. So let's look for the first. When's the earliest, the soonest that we can work on the finale? Maybe just the music. Looks like October 1st looks pretty good. We have 4 hard conflicts and 0 questionable conflicts, partial day conflicts. And then a little bit further down, I'd say maybe October 5th. It would depend on these partial days. I would want to scroll across and look and see what they have to say, the people that need to be there. So let's do that, October 1st and October 5th. I'll go ahead and put those on the schedule. So 10-1 is going to be our finale music rehearsal, and music rehearsal doesn't have to take too long. We'll schedule that for 8 o'clock until 9:30 because it is a big number, so we do want to make sure that we give plenty of time. Let me get my formatting right. If you have something weird like this, you can always go up into the number formatting and go down and select the time format, and it's going to format that for you, although it put that extra 0 on it, so maybe don't do that. Formatting can be a little strange. Here's another trick. If you have cells, that's what these boxes are called, that are formatted the way you want, you can just right-click those or Control-C to copy, and then go down and Control-Alt-V, or right-click, paste special, and paste the format. See Control-Alt-V, and that's going to format the cell without actually pasting over what you have in there. So that's really cool. That's in Google Sheets. I don't think Excel has anything like that. But if you have any weird formatting like that, that you can't get it to undo, you can just work on it like that. So, okay, this other one that we had was 10-5, and that's going to be blocking, I guess, finale blocking. And we'll put that one on for 5:30 p.m. until probably 7 o'clock p.m. Okay, and we're going to have all the same folks called to those rehearsals. And so now I want to take a break and show you something. If we flip back to the conflicts, I mentioned earlier that you can't just reorder these columns because of the way we're pulling this data from our audition form. You see Harry Potter still stays in column G, even though I totally just moved him. So let me undo that. And look, I have 2 Gastons. Isn't that weird? So we'll change Lord Voldemort to be a wolf. Okay, so what you can do to combat that when you definitely have all of your conflict data pulled in from your audition form and you know that conflicts are not going to change. Remember, we covered that in part 1. Don't be afraid to edit people's what they submitted on the audition form regarding conflicts to make it a little bit more readable for you. Such as this one, it says, after work, I'm free, and that's all the text you can see. So to avoid that, you could just reword this to say free after 5:30. So now at a glance, you can see that this person who is a Sirius Black, when you're working on the schedule like we are now, you can see that it says free after 5:30 instead of having to read all that extra text. So feel free under data. This is the only thing I'm giving you permission to change on the data because this is, again, the raw data that they submitted on the audition form. You really don't want to mess with it a lot, but you can simplify their wordiness when they describe their conflicts because it's going to happen, no question. And once again, if you change it here under data, it's going to change it everywhere. So if we find Sirius Black, and that was like October 4th, I think. Yeah, right here, you see it updated it here as well. And so that's why you want to change that in data. If I were to change that here and say just after 5:30, suddenly everything breaks, okay? And that's because we used this formula up here to pull all of that information from our audition form into this tab. So it's all one big reference pulling from that audition form, and it needs all this space to pull that information in. So when you try to change something directly here, it's like, whoa, I don't have the space to put all the information you told me to pull in, so it throws that error. I hit Control-Z to undo that. If you come across something like that, just Control-Z. It's going to save you a world of headache. Instead of editing here, edit the data. But let me show you this trick, which I've been rambling on about for a while. I'm going to start in the cell where I put my formula. So it's the first person in our list, and it's the first column or the whatever. It's E3. If you're tracking along with me, if you're doing everything as I'm doing it, it's E3 right here, and it's got our transpose formula. If I go over, you see these don't have any, well, this does have a formula in it. What does that have? Oh, this is just names going across the top. So we're not going to worry about those. Actually, we will. I'm sorry, I'm going all around. Let me show you, I'll just show you with this row first. So if I select this entire row, and I'm going to hold down Control, Shift, and the right arrow to do that quickly, I'm going to copy this row with Control C. Let me scroll back over so you can see. You see that dot, that dashed line around everything? That means that it's copied and ready to paste. And I'm going to use Control Shift V. If I right click, I show you what this is. Paste special, values only, Control Shift V. And what this does is it takes all of the values that it's extracted from this formula and it pastes just those values as if they were text all by themselves. So Control Shift V, and you see nothing has changed, but now Daniel Fowler is actually Daniel Fowler. It is no longer a formula, okay? And so the same thing here. If I were to select all of this and all the way down to the very bottom and scroll back over so you can see all this. So I've selected all of this transposed data from our audition form. I'm going to Control C to get that dashed line. And I don't think you can see it this time because there it is at the bottom. You can't see it because we've frozen. We have a thick line here and it's covering it up. But you see the dashed line at the bottom. So I've copied it, Control Shift V to paste just the text. And so now, if I go back to the top left, you see my formula is completely gone. So now all of this stuff is just text. If I were to change something under the data sheet, I could not come back here and see it updated because we've broken that link. This is all just standard text now. So if I were to type something new in here and save it, we don't get that big fat error that I got before where everything disappears. We can edit it directly. Now I highly recommend that you do not edit things here directly. Only edit things on that data and use the formulas that we put in place to pull all of that in. It's going to save you a big time headache, but you can use this to reorganize people. So if you know that conflicts aren't going to change, you've gotten the data sorted out the way, reworded the way you want to, everything looks great here except that you want to put maybe some of your leads at the front. You can now reorder them because they are just text. So if I wanted Hagrid to be over here next to Belle, now I can drag Hagrid over. And if I want all my wolves to be together, I can put them over there. I've got LeFou over here. Mr. Ron Weasley is LeFou. And so we can pull him over here to be with Gaston. I'll pull him all the way over to be with Gaston. And so now we can reorder some people. Let me make him red cast too, just because it drives me crazy. So now nothing has really changed. You know, we're still looking at the conflicts that are calculated based on the entire cast and not any subset. But if you need any large rehearsals where you need those most important people and you need to see them most of all, you can drag them over. So let's say that we're working next on, so we've gotten our finale rehearsals in. Now let's work on something that the wolves need to come to regularly. So I want to look at just the wolves conflicts and find out where can we block the attack scene where they attack the beast in the forest, or they attack Belle and then the beast comes along. So we need the beast and we need the wolves to find conflicts for those folks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab Belle and the beast. I'm going to just hold, I just held shift in case you're not super good with spreadsheets. I just select G. I can either select G and drag over to H, or I can do G and then hold shift and select H. And I'm going to drag both of these over right to the edge there. You see the dark line that's moving along. That's where you're going to drop it. So I'm going to put them first. And I also need all of our wolves called to this as well. So I'm going to drag from K to M and drag that over and drop them right there. So here again, we have not affected any of our, or did we? It kind of looks like these numbers are being affected, doesn't it? Oh, they are. And that's because we moved, man, this is hard to explain. We moved Gaston was first in line over here. And so when we put people in front of Gaston, our formula is now only looking at Gaston and beyond. So, another shortcoming you have with working with a spreadsheet is that moving data when a formula is relying on that data is kind of tricky. But it's an easy fix. I'm just going to change this J to be E. And to explain why I'm doing that is because it was referencing J as the starting point, and I need it to be E as the starting point, okay? So that's E, and I need to do this for all three of these columns. So I'm going to say that this is E as well, and that this is E as well. So that gives us 26 again, and that's great. So now I'm going to select those three, Control C to copy, Control Shift down arrow to go all the way to the bottom, and Control V to paste. And that gets our conflicts all fixed up after we've moved these columns. So you might have to do that if you start moving columns pretty regularly, which would be really annoying. A way around that, honestly, is you could insert a new column right here and just make it really small and don't put anybody in it. And we could have done that before I made all of this, before I got rid of the formula that was putting all that in there. Sorry, I'm getting really technical right now, but hopefully you're tracking with me. You can pause, go back, rewatch this again, maybe slow it down or speed it up if you need to cover anything new. But I feel like it's important. I'm trying to teach you how to work efficiently, and these details hopefully will help you work efficiently instead of just watching what I'm doing and following the instructions exactly as you see them. I want you to be able to think about this and understand it so that you are building your skill set to work more efficiently next show and the show after that and the show after that. You don't want to keep having to watch this video. I'll also seize this opportunity since I'm rambling to tell you that the reason I'm not sharing these templates in the comments as a download is because your show is going to be completely different. Your audition form is going to be completely different. Everything I'm working on here is based on what we did in part 1. It's based on that audition form that I set up. So when you set up your audition form, you're going to have a different set of columns running across. And so all these formulas that I'm setting up are not going to work for you because they're based on this specific set of information that I'm working with. So if you didn't watch part 1 and part 2, I recommend you do that because I'm teaching you from nothing how to do all of this on your own, how to build it from scratch. So if you have not watched those parts, and if you're not spreadsheet savvy, you really should go back and track with us the whole way. So, okay, so now I've got this this empty column, and I want to make sure that these are referencing that. So I'm going to change these to E one more time. And the reason I put that empty column there is because now, if I keep that column there as a buffer, I will never have to worry about, shall we say, edging out that column. Like before, Gaston was at the front, and because I moved something else in front of him, our starting point got shifted over. Now our starting point is a blank column that's not going to go anywhere. It's not ever going to move unless you accidentally drag and drop a column. But you'll be able to see that easily. So if I drag and drop oops in front of that, you see now I've got a gap in my information here. You also saw everything kind of flash over here, and that's because our colors shifted because the information changed. So I'm going to Control Z to undo moving those columns and show you if I now move them just in front of Bell, like I might want to do later, nothing here changed. So we are now safe. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so back to what I was talking about. So we just moved Belle and the Beast and our wolves over to the left side. And the only thing that helps us with is when we encounter a day that we think looks like a good day to schedule things, but we see some conflicts here. Now these folks are the first ones that we see in our list, so we can very quickly see if these conflicts are related to those people. Does that make sense? So if these are the 5 people we want to come to this rehearsal, and you see we have 2 hard conflicts on this day, I can very quickly look and see only one of those conflicts are for these 5 people that we desperately need to have at this rehearsal. So hopefully you tracked with me. Again, you can rewind and listen to my rambling again if you want. But that's why I recommend you can, moving the columns around. But don't do that again until your audition information is definitely locked in for good. So okay, let's put a wolf rehearsal on the calendar, and I think we've got a pretty good day right here, October 5th. We do have a conflict with Sirius Black. He's not going to be able to be there, but you see October 6th also looks like a good day, and we have 2 people that are not able to be here and 1 TBD. So, you know, pick your poison, right? That's what we're always trying to do. So I'm going to go ahead and book our first wolf rehearsal on October 5th. I'm going to click back over to the schedule and say 10:05. We already have a rehearsal, which we see right here on that day, 5:30 till 7. So depending on people's schedule, you can navigate around that. But I'll say that this is 7 o'clock p.m. until it's going to be a short one, so we'll just say 7:45 p.m. This is attack bell scene. You probably wouldn't write it as that. You would find out what scene it actually was. And we need bell, beast, and wolves. Okay. Now we need a couple more of those because we want to run that. Well, maybe just probably just one more rehearsal for the wolves. But we want to run it later in our production cycle. So let's go down to their teens and look for a day. So I'm looking at these 5 folks right here. And I don't see a day where they're all available, but we know that Sirius Black missed the first one, so we definitely want him there for the next one. So here on Tuesday, maybe not Tuesday because we have a couple of partial day conflicts, but Monday the 19th looks pretty good. And you see there's 4 conflicts, but only one of those is in our 5. So that's a pretty good day. So we'll say the 19th. It's going to be when we review this, and we'll put it on the books for 5 o'clock p.m. until 5:30 p.m. And this is going to be attack bell review, and same as before, bell, beast, wolves. We get to call it the wolf fight, maybe. I don't know, that might be better, more socially appropriate. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is that it's another great thing. I guess this is great for spreadsheets in general, but when you have start to get a lot of rehearsals on your schedule, you know, we started working backwards up here. So we've got October 30th, 29th, moving down, 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 and then the 1st, and then the 5th, and then the 5th, and the 19th. So everything's out of order. With a spreadsheet, as long as you have frozen this top row, you can, on Google Sheets, you can either right-click on the A and do sort sheet A to Z, or you can use this little arrow that pops up when you hover over that. It does the same thing as the right click. So sort sheet A to Z, that's going to put the earliest dates on top and the latest dates at the bottom. Let me undo that real quick and show you if you have not frozen this top row, which you just do by dragging this thick line. If you've not frozen this row and you go to sort, what you're going to end up doing is this. Come on, right click, sort sheet, and our date, our header row goes away. So in order to avoid that, just freeze that top column, drag that down, right click, sort the sheet, and you're good. You're golden. And so now we can continue putting rehearsals on the schedule down here, or you could even right click on a row and keep everything in order if you want as you go. I find it easier to just work at the bottom all the time and occasionally sort things. So let's see, we've got 17 rehearsals on the schedule. I think that's I've pretty much showed you all the tricks that I have in building a schedule. So and we're right at 35 minutes. So I'm going to cut the video here and give you, in the next video, I'm going to show you some, I'm going to show some tricks for the actors who are looking at this rehearsal schedule and teach them some tricks on how to find their rehearsals really, really easily. But again, shameless plug, cast98.com, try it out, go try the demo. I built Cast98 to make all of this so much easier for you. It automates all of this. An actor doesn't have to find their rehearsals in a spreadsheet because on Cast98 they can filter the rehearsal to only look at their rehearsals. So it's wonderful not only for directors and stage managers, saving you time with these administrative tasks, automating a lot of these tasks for you, but but also on the flip side, your actors and your parents of actors, young actors, are going to love Cast 98 because of the ability to see the rehearsal schedule and see the audition form really, really easily when they log in. So visit cast98.com/demo to give it a try. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.